Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be going over the history and geographies of Atsimo-Andrefana, Atsimo-Atsinanana, and Atsinanana in Madagascar. You can see we're zoomed out here on Google Earth. I'm going to zoom out even more so we can see exactly where Madagascar is, if you only know it from the movies and don't really know a lot about the actual island. It's located here in the south of Africa. It is Africa's largest island here in the Indian Ocean. So we are talking about three areas with very long names. Atsimo-Andrefana means southwest, Atsimo-Atsinanana means southeast, and Atsinanana means east in Malagasy. And just a quick note that I always like to do when I'm talking about Madagascar is that the Malagasy language is quite complicated and very hard to speak. And how it's pronounced in American English is not at all how it's pronounced on Madagascar. In the same way that in America we say Paris, that's not how they say it in France. They say Paris, right? So Malagasy is very different from how it's pronounced in America. So I will be pronouncing it the American English way. Just know that that's not how it's pronounced on the island. For example, the language is called Malagash. We say Malagasy. That's how different it is. So just keep in mind that I'm not pronouncing it how they would pronounce things on Madagascar. But let's get into these regions. I'm on the tablet for this video because, not that there isn't any interesting maps that I have actually some really neat maps, but Google Earth shows pretty much all the same stuff. And also I found a lot of stuff about one region and not so much about the other two, so they're all getting lumped together. And yeah, I don't want to do a short segment and then cut to the tablet and all that. Let's just get to the tablet. Let me just show you the stuff. We're going to start off with Atsimo-Andrefana, not because it's alphabetically first, but it's the one that I've got the most stuff on. The capital here is Toliara, or the French pronunciation they would say on the island is Toliara. I've literally heard Toliara in my research more than Toliara, but Toliara is the official name in English, so that's what I have to call it. Very big major city on this coast of Madagascar. As you can tell from above, the coasts are entirely different. See this big straight line here and how lush and green it is compared to this rocky, ridgy coast here. This part of the island is way more rocky. And part of that has to do with the Indian Ocean, how this side is hit by hurricanes and storms and winds. This side not so much because Africa's right there. You can't really get a lot of sea storms on this side of the island. So the geographies on both sides are very different. And those rocks lead to some interesting rock formations. You really don't find them anywhere else in the world quite like this. The famous one in this department, Madagascar, this region, is this one here. It is I'm going to say this very carefully, the Atsimo-Atsinanana National Park, which is actually part of a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So let me pull that up. It's part of the Andrefana dry forests. The most famous is the Singi de Bamaraha, which is not in this region, unfortunately, because it's so cool to look at. But it's one of the dry forests. Let's read about it. It says, this cereal property in western Madagascar comprises karstic landscapes and limestone uplands cut into impressive Tsingy peaks and a forest of limestone needles. The spectacular canyon of the Malambolo River, rolling hills and high peaks. Just real quick, one of my favorite facts about Madagascar is the word singi. It means place where you cannot walk barefoot in the language. That's an awesome word. Undisturbed forests, lakes, and mangrove swamps are the habitat for rare and endangered lemurs and birds. The component parts of the property cover almost the full range of ecological and evolutionary variation within the western forests of Madagascar, including western dry forests and southwestern spiny forest thicket. These sites contain a spectacular array of endemic and threatened biodiversity, including baobabs, flame trees, or delonics, as well as unique evolutionary lineages such as the Mesotornithiformes, an order of birds which is 54 million years old. Look at some of the pictures here. You can see some of the rocks here. This is in a different singy. You can see some beautiful birds, big thick baobab right there. And of course the lemurs. God, that's in Singi-Dipamara. But why don't we look at the actual slideshow here and see what this park in particular looks like. You can see the big lake right there. It's so blue. Big old baobab tree here. The little prince would be terrified. It's his biggest fear. That is a big one. Beautiful scenery, caves, little pools, the big thick trees, big thicker baobabs, and all kinds of caves. A little friend here, little turtle. And just this very shrubby, rocky landscape. Lots of flamingos there. And look, here's a moa. Big extinct bird. That's not a moa. Moas lived on New Zealand. This is an elephant bird. Elephant birds are actually bigger than moas. These are very extinct because the Malagasy ate all their eggs. Unless I'm thinking of moas. I might have them confused. But elephant birds were the largest birds that ever lived on planet Earth. I mean, I guess if you don't count the dinosaurs, but those are dinosaurs. Birds. More baobabs there in the distance. You can see how rocky and shrubby it is. Huh? Beautiful little park. Most national parks, and this is the issue with the other regions we're going to talk about tonight. Most national parks in Madagascar are strict reserves, which means you can't just go and explore. I believe this one you can, which is why there's so many pictures, but most of them, because they really, really don't want that land damaged, are closed to the public. You have to have a special reason why you're there. You have to be a scientist, so on and so forth. So even though there's beautiful sights to see in these other two regions, there's no pictures inside because you can't just go in there just for funsies and take pictures. The largest city here is Toliara, like we talked about already. One of the interesting facts about Toliara is that there is a dog breed associated with Toliara or Toliara. It is the Colombe de Toliara, and it's freaking cute. Look at this. Are you kidding me? That's so adorable. It talks a little bit about down here, but the origin that I read the most, which actually segs us right into history, is that they were bred by pirates, in so many words. The first settlers here in this bay, it's the St. Augustine Bay. You can see St. Augustine is right here. Where pirates are specifically French buccaneers. And they believe the Colombe de Toliara is a dog breed that came from the different dogs of the different pirates that settled, mingling and breeding and creating this new breed. There's quite a few crazy theories, but that's the one I've read the most that makes the most sense, you know. It's a combination of a bunch of dogs, but like most of Madagascar, this area had an indigenous tribe that lived here known as the Vezo, which literally means people who fish, and they were big time, as you can imagine, fishers. Lived here in the area. It really wasn't much until 1897 when the island by then had been conquered by France and became a colony. A French architect moved in over here and took over and built this entire city, planned the entire thing. I had read about how it was all like a grid plan. It doesn't look like it now, does it? It looks like a typical African or Malagasy city. Let's look at St. Augustine, see if it's more of a grid. I've lost it. It's a big bay. It's over here. Nope. it's very sprawling, isn't it? Here in this little cove. But this became a big port, you can see there. And also an island not too far off over here. This is called Noshive, which is uninhabited today due to a fadi. Fadi being a strict Malagasy taboo. I was trying to figure out what the Noshive fadi is, but I couldn't find it. So if anyone knows, let me know. But every tribe has fadi or taboos that they must follow or else, and they're very fascinating because they're so different from any other taboos that I've heard from around the world. But there's something about this island that's a big no-no. You can see that there had been some settlement here, probably by the French at some point, but that's all gone. It's now a bird reserve for the red-tailed tropic bird, which I guess is this guy right here. And it's a big stretch of sand and little shrubs. I was reading some tourist website, that's pretty, about how you can take little day trips here, but it's kind of like, why? There's literally nothing to do. It's literally just birds. I guess if you want to go bird watching. But, you know, you should really take care because it's a reserve. There's literally, it's just, oh goodness, that's an angelfish, isn't it? Those are poisonous. Me as a child had a very big fear of poisonous fish. I was very convinced that I would step on a rockfish or a Portuguese man of war one day. It was a very real threat to me, like quicksand, you know. I was very afraid of them. But I think that's pretty much all that I have for this area. I don't know if there's any other slideshows I can show you here in the interior. You can see it's a little mishmash of green and brownish red. The beautiful Madagascar soils, this thick, rich red color. Usually anywhere you see that, it's either very, very rocky and dry, or it's been cleared for farmland in the past. They don't do that anymore, which I'll show you in the other areas. I guess we could look at, I think this cave head. Yeah, that's so cool, isn't it? There's some neat slideshows in this area. I highly recommend playing around in this region. The other ones you can try, but I didn't find really any other pictures in those regions. The only other news that I read about Atsimo-Andrefana was about a peasant revolt in 1971, where the peasants all collectively decided they weren't going to pay taxes. That was, of course, suppressed by the government, as you can imagine. Madagascar was not a very fun place to be between the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. The government went through a very strict socialist phase, trying to become their own little SSR. That, of course, collapsed in the early 90s, as many of those governments did. But yeah, I think Oh, here's one. The national park with pictures. Beautiful baobabs. A shifaka, the fluffy lemurs, a zubumafu. But yeah, lots of little guys here. Look at that cute lemur. A sweet little owl. Beautiful trees. Oh, snacky. But yeah, I think there's a couple of parks here with slideshows. They're all beautiful like this. Let me know if you find any. Little lizard. Let me see real quick. Yeah, this park I was reading about, but it's actually not in this department, this region. But we're gonna head over here. There we go. This is Atsimo-Atsinanana. And here's the capital, Farafagana. You can see the borders here. Why don't I type it in? I forgot to mention, Atsimo-Andrefana is the largest region of Madagascar. Atsimo-Atsinanana. Just to highlight it. Maybe you can look at the slideshow here. But here you can see it along the coast here. Some farmland, looks like rice. Oh, that's it. And not a lot of pictures in these other regions. Like here is a national park. I don't think. Oh, we've got oh, that's right. This picture is just someone took a bunch of pictures of flowers. Not really the kind of pictures I'd want to show you guys. But this area here, you can see the major city here. Oh wait, stop everything. I wanted to show you one more thing over here. I forgot. Over in Toliara, you have to see this museum. Hold on. It's over here somewhere. Besides the recycling museum, which is really cool. This is a fish museum. They have all these dried out fish. And I think this might be it. They have a coelacanth. There's a coelacanth. A fish suspected to be extinct, but they found it here in the southern Indian Ocean. So they have a ring-tailed lemur. This guy. Lots of the kind of rare fishies you find at Animal Crossing. Like, let me see, there's one other I want to show you. It's kind of cool, I'll try it out. The sunfish. These guys are wild. They swim sideways like that. Crazy. What a neat museum. But anyway, I had to show you that. I just remembered. Gosh, Madagascar is so big. Okay, back to Farafagana. So, let's see what we can find here in the city. You can see that it's along the beautiful coastline here. This area has a lot more pretty beaches and things, but like I said, it does have an issue with, I guess, what would they be, typhoons? Yeah, no pictures there. Because I think hurricanes are in the other hemisphere. Over here, it's typhoons? I'm not sure. I think there was a cool slideshow somewhere over here. Let's see. Frontier de Farafagana. Yeah. Let's look here. Gorgeous little gardens here along the seaside. This little, like, lagoon. So I did not really find much about the history of this region, but I looked up a lot about the indigenous tribes that once ruled here. There are quite a few. The two that I want to mention, and again, I'm going to mispronounce these. They are the Antaifani, was one of them. They were usually, the indigenous tribes are like strictly herders, strictly farmers, like the last one we talked about was strictly fishers. These guys were fishers and farmers. They warred with some of the other tribes, but then in 1827 the Imerina came in. The Imerina being the tribe that conquered like 99% of the Malagasy tribes and united the island. So the Imerina came in and, persecuted them. And then when the French came around, they fought back pretty aggressively. The French very famously fought back twice as hard against the other tribes here in horrific, terrible ways that I don't like to mention on this channel because it's not very YouTube friendly and it's not very relaxing for ASMR. Another tribe that lived in this region was known as the Antesaka. They had a very, very large, powerful kingdom before they were conquered by the Imerina. But the interesting thing about them was that they did not resist the French when the French came in and conquered. They refused to join the other tribes to fight against the French. I don't know if that means they cooperated with the French, but they definitely refused to fight the French, which is very, very unusual here in Madagascar. But let's see if we can get any other pictures. Nope, see, there's just not a lot. I think because you can see these green patches here. Usually the greener the patch, the least human impact there was. See, here's a reserve and there's no pictures. Probably because it's a special reserve. It's probably because you cannot go inside of it. But in a lot of places you can see the landscape being that beautiful Madagascar red, because many of the farmers in these regions used slash and burn farming, which is great for short-term farming but devastates the landscape. So that is not allowed anymore. And Madagascar in the past 20 years or so has put a huge emphasis on maintaining the environment of their beautiful island, because there's no other place like this in the world. I think in that first park we looked at, which I'm not going to try to pronounce again, there's plants that exist only in this park. So Madagascar is very, very important to protect. The last place I want to show you is up here. Let's type it in so we can see the border. Atsimo-Atsinanana. And this region I found even less about. The coolest fact I found about it was that one of the Imerina kings, when he was visiting the region here, tasted the salt water and said, "It's salty." And how you say it's salty is Toamasina. At least in American English, that's how you pronounce it. So the capital is Toamasina. In French, it's pronounced Tamatav, but here we call it Toamasina. It is Madagascar's largest port. It's where I think like 80% of their imports and exports come out of. That is the big important fact of this. Madagascar is the largest exporter of vanilla in the world. So most likely if you're eating vanilla, it came out of this port. How cool is that? Let's see if we can look at the beach. Why not? I love beaches. You can see all the ships coming in. Yeah, a little boardwalk there, little shops, things like that. But yeah, I found even less about this area. I couldn't even find stuff about the ethnic groups that lived there, else I'd be telling you about them. I did read that the city was almost totally wiped out by a hurricane in 1927. So everything you see here was rebuilt after that. But that's pretty much all that I've got for you. Pretty sure there's some beautiful parks here, but They are. Here we go. Let's see. No pictures, like I told you. I'm pretty sure that's because you're just not allowed to go in them, so there's no pictures. At least that's what I'm telling myself because I couldn't really find any pictures here. So this was kind of a bust. Very, very rarely do I just come up empty-handed in my research, and looks like I got nothing for you guys. But I'm sure there's a lot. I've heard a lot about Toamasina researching other regions of Madagascar. And then, of course, when I'm like, oh, I finally get to talk about it, I find nothing. So, I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, which I guess I am, because I was trying to find it online anywhere, but wasn't Toamasina? I'm sure I'm thinking of a different city. But wasn't this the one that was founded by, like, a pirate married a princess and their son founded the city? Or was it one... I think I'm thinking about a different city. But, like, in the back of my mind, I was always like, that's Toamasina. It's probably some different city that starts with a T. But I wouldn't be surprised if the city had some kind of origin story along those lines. Look at this big clearing here. It's a big old lake, and it's red. Why is it so red? It's like blood red. Must be from the soil mixing in, I guess. It's so red. Please let there be pictures for Ringa-Ringa. No. I want to see Ringa-Ringa. See this park? Oh, we've got pictures. Perfect. Why don't I close out the video looking at this slideshow? Thank you so much for watching. Even though there wasn't terribly too much to say about some of these places, I do hope that you found this video to be relaxing and educational. Here's a chameleon. Madagascar is home to many, 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 many species of chameleons. Next, we are heading over to Laos, which I've never talked about Laos in this series yet. Cute lemur. But anyway, you're going to want to subscribe so you won't miss out. I hope that you have a very good night. What is that? That looks like a wasp nest. I don't like that. Good night. Good night.